The Nashville Predators lost a game in overtime that they had no business losing in regulation. How the hell did that happen?
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast, and thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are going to kick off this pretty excruciating Monday episode the same way that we kick off all of our episodes here, and that is with a shout out to our Locked On Pred Heads. Those are our everyday listeners who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. We appreciate your support. We love spending a little bit of your day with you. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer at Penalty Box Radio. I am usually joined by my partner in crime, Nick Morgan, but Nick is off today. You may have heard a collective weeping and gnashing of teeth around Nashville that kicked in, say, about 8:30, 8:45 yesterday evening. My friends, those were Nashville Predators fans. The Nashville Predators lost a game in overtime, game 4 of the playoffs against the Vancouver Canucks. And my friends, they had no business losing this game in regulation. The Predators were up 3-1 over the Canucks with 3 minutes left to play and then lost in overtime. We're going to take a hard look today at what went wrong late in the game for the Predators. We're going to hear from Andrew Brunette and the players about the loss. And we're going to talk about where the Nashville Predators go from here as they face a must-win Game 5. Before we dive into all of that, though, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Again, as I said at the top of the show, Nashville Predators lost their game last night in overtime by a score of 4-3, dropped game 4. They are now down in this playoff series 3-1. It was probably one of the roughest games I think I've seen in a long time from the Predators. There had been games earlier in the season where you felt like Nashville really kind of gave up the game late. This, whether it's because it was in the playoffs, whether it was because it would have tied the series and now the Predators are facing elimination, this one was especially excruciating. Of course, you know, here at Locked On Predators, we always kick off our game recaps with one word to describe the game. I reached out to you all asking, what is your one word to describe the game? And there were plenty of words to choose from. So here's a sample of what we saw from our Locked On Pred Heads and our friends on Twitter. Philip Forsberg, Scooter, your one word, pain, in all caps, because that's the only way you can write that word after the game. At Morgan97D, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. All one word, so very accurate. Jake Bolton, 777 said season ending. Yeah, that's something that we're going to be talking about a little bit later on today. Is this a season-ending loss for the Nashville Predators, and where do they go from here? At Goodness CA 10906, your one word was dejected. Oh my gosh, such a kick in the gut. John Boland coming with the accurate poop pants. Mr. Misconduct said relented. Fire Luke Shen, I feel like you clearly didn't read the part of the tweet where I said that there are words that I can't say on the podcast. I can't say any swear words on the podcast. But Fire Luke Shen, you were not wrong in your assessment of how this game was. This was, oh, friends, this was tough. My one word to describe this game, it's a quote from Juliet where she says, "Oh, happy dagger." This Romeo and Juliet, written by Shakespeare, was, of course, something that I studied in high school and in college. And at the very end of the play, Juliet fakes her death. Romeo finds her, but doesn't realize that she's like only sleeping. He didn't get the she's faking her death memo. So he drinks poison and then really dies. But then Juliet wakes up from, her faking death, sees Romeo dead, tries to kill herself with the poison, but Romeo drank on the poison. She tries to like kiss his lips to get some poison off there, but nope, nothing there. And so she finds his sword and she picks it up and she says, "Oh, happy dagger." And then she stabs herself and dies. Now, I know that is probably overly dramatic for a one word to describe a hockey game. But last night's game, when you saw those game tying late goals in the third period, and then that overtime goal to give Vancouver a 3-1 series lead, my friend, it was an oh happy dagger moment. I mean, just let the pain end. Now, it's not going to end for the Nashville Predators before Game 5. And that was a lot of the conversation that we had post-game. How do you bounce back from this? We're going to talk about that. We're going to hear from the players and from Andrew Brunette on that. First, let's do a real quick 30-second recap in case you missed the game. Brock Boeser got Vancouver on the board first. Just a few minutes into the game, Mark Jankowski tied the game up about 3 minutes later. Gus Nyquist made it a 2-1 game in the second period, capitalizing on a 3-on-2 chance. Philip Forsberg's skate gave the Nashville Predators a 3-1 lead just 12 seconds into the third period. His puck went off the skate. The officials did take a quick look at it and did not feel like there was a kicking motion, so the goal stood. Nashville was up 3-1 with less than 3 minutes to go when the Vancouver Canucks pulled their goalie and Brock Boeser scored a 6-on-5 goal. With just 8 seconds remaining in what should have been and could have been a Nashville Predators series tying win, Brock Boeser scores again to earn a hat trick and to tie the game up. Just a minute into overtime, Elias Lindholm scored to give Vancouver the win, and that 3-1 series lead. So what do you take away from a game like this besides just tons of gastrointestinal distress if you're a Predators fan? I said it at the top. I will say it again. This was a game Nashville should have won in regulation. And I'm not saying that lightly. Andrew Brunette has referred to this series as a muddy series. And I really love that term because I think we can all understand what he means when he says that. This is not a series that's going to open up a lot. So when you are a team with a 2-goal lead in this series between these two particular teams, with the way that the first 3 games have gone, that's a good lead. When you're up 3-1, and there are 3 minutes left in the third period in a matchup where neither of these teams really has been able to open up the hockey game, where they are really battling for every opportunity, every puck. You should be able to pull off that win if you're the Nashville Predators. Here's what's real. The Predators liked their game for most all of the night. They were much better when it came to puck possession, much better when it came to winning the puck battles, generating chances, controlling the puck throughout the neutral zone. So what the heck happened? Well, a couple of things. Breakdowns in front of UC Saros late. Again, they pulled their goaltender. We're going to talk about the Vancouver goaltending situation coming up later in the show. But Vancouver pulled their goaltender to make it a 6-on-5. So the 3-2 goal, if you watch that series back, it will be excruciating. It doesn't get any more fun to watch if you're a Predators fan. But if you watch that, what you'll see is that there is a point at which 3 Vancouver players get behind the defense or are in the close proximity to the net. Once that puck gets low, they have that shot. And it is literally UC Saros faces the world. And that's what happened on Brock Boeser's goal to make it 3-2. In that last game tying goal with 8 seconds left in the third period, a couple of different things happened. Gus Nyquist blew a shoe, as we say in our house. He kind of lost an edge and fell out. So briefly, what you ended up having was a 6-on-4 because he kind of slid out by the blue line and play dropped down a little bit. But then again, if you watch this series, if you watch these few seconds leading into that tying goal, you're going to see the same thing again. You're going to see 3 Vancouver Canucks versus UC Saros. Now, a lot happened for that goal to take place. Like Roman Josi tried to kind of break it down for us, like he was trying to, do full block on JT Miller, and the puck did end up going off Yosi's stick and then off Saros's pad. And so, again, a lot happens in hockey. But what you saw was maybe some defensive breakdowns that the Predators have got to pay attention to. The flip side of that, and look, we got to be honest about this. One of Vancouver's best players played like one of Vancouver's best players last night. Brock Boeser had the 2 late goals, had a hat trick in this game. And if you've got a player, a 40-some goal scorer player who has a hat trick in a playoff game, in a tight series, that's the team that's going to win. Doesn't matter what happens in the 57 minutes leading up to the end of that game. When one of your best players steps up and is one of your best players, that's how you lose a game late. Had Philip Forsberg scored a hat trick, Nashville would have won. Had Roman Josi scored a hat trick in this series, the Predators would have won. Brock Boeser got it done. Again, it comes down to your best players have to be your best players. Nashville played well, and we're going to talk about that. And I know it's probably something Predators fans don't want to hear, but the truth is the Predators played pretty well in this game. And there were solid performances. Gus Nyquist had a goal. Philip Forsberg's skate had a goal. But here's the thing. Brock Boeser stepped up in the moment and took it to another level. Coming up, we're going to hear from Roman Josi on how the room was feeling after that loss. We're also going to take a closer look at the other 57 minutes of last night's game as well. Before we dive into that, though, I want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. This episode is also brought to you by Game Time. If hockey playoffs have you pulling your hair out like they are here in Nashville, maybe you want a palate cleanse. If you're looking to check out some NBA action, you need to check out Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Game Time's all-in pricing shows you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout, and you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Coming up on tomorrow's show, what do the Predators need to do to hold off elimination in a must-win Game 5? We're going to talk about that. Plus, we're going to share our thoughts on some of the little murmurs about Andrew Brunette in the playoffs as well. That's coming up on tomorrow's episode. Today, we got to talk about it. Nashville Predators and Predators fans are waking up with probably the same feeling in their stomachs as we are. Shocking overtime loss. This was a game that Nashville could have won. And frankly, this is a game that Nashville should have won. One of the most difficult losses I think that we've seen in a while. And friends, there is no U2 concert on the horizon to help the Predators bounce back from that. All they have to look forward to right now is game 5. They got a lot of work to do. This was a game that was very tough to watch. This was a locker room that was very tough just to be in after the game. Here's what's real. One of the burdens of leadership in hockey is that you are tasked with talking about a game like that right after it ends. And my friends, that is not easy. This is a team that was clearly very frustrated, very disappointed. They just really were. I would say that a couple of the players were almost agitated after the game, and you get why. This was a crushing loss. This was a one word we talked about. Is this a series-ending loss? It really depends on what Nashville does, but it has the potential to be. We did get a chance to talk to some of the veterans. We talked with Gus Nyquist, Philip Forsberg, Roman Josi after the game to talk about, what they saw, where the breakdowns were, where did they go from here. This is what Roman Josi had to say when it came to the loss and how the locker room was feeling and talking about it.
Yeah, it's tough. It is. I mean, you're up 3-1. You're obviously with 3 minutes left, whatever it was. It's a pretty good chance to close it out, and 2-2 series obviously is would be huge, and it's tough. Like it hurts obviously. Like everybody's a little bit hurt right now, but like I said before, sometimes you got to focus on the process, and things happen in hockey. I've been part of a lot of playoff series, and things happen our way, and sometimes things go the other way, and you gotta forget about it quick and make sure your game is in order, and things will work out.
Yeah, Roman Josi says it hurts. Yeah, look, devastating loss for the Nashville Predators, and it's a 7-game series. You know that this is going to be a series that is probably not going to open up between these two teams. These are going to be hard-fought games between these two teams. But man, when you have a 3-1 lead at home, a chance to tie up the series before you head back out on the road, and you have to hold on to the puck for 3 minutes and you don't do it, man, yeah, that one hurts. This is a tough loss. We talked about some of the late breakdowns that happened in front of Saros. It really felt like those last 2 goals by Brock Boeser, Saros was left out to dry a little bit on those ones. And Andrew Brunette was pretty clear about that he felt like, you know what, Saros was not to blame for that. There was some breakdowns there. Again, you know what? Like it or lump it, you got to give credit to Brock Boeser, because you've got to have players who do what needs to be done in those moments. A couple other areas that are much smaller that I think that Nashville needs to improve on if they want to keep this series going in game 5. And it's very similar things that we've talked about. Number one, got to get to the inside. And you saw it on those late goals for Vancouver. Vancouver got to the inside. They got space in front of the net. And that's something that Nashville has struggled to do in this series. And, credit to Vancouver. Vancouver, big boys. They grow them big in Vancouver, or they draft them big in Vancouver, or they bring them in big and big. They're big in Vancouver. I don't know how they all got there, but big in Vancouver, very strong, did a really good job through this whole series in kind of keeping play to the outside. I think this was the best Nashville did in this series so far to get some of that important real estate inside, but you've got to do better than that. You've got to get inside. Vancouver's not going to make it easy on you. They haven't all series, but you've got to get to that quality real estate in front of the net. Another thing, and this wasn't as big a factor in this game, but this is one of those moments where you think, there were 2 minutes that could have changed the game in Nashville's favor. They had a power play. The penalty kill handled a couple of penalties that Vancouver had. Nashville, the power play, not good. Andrew Brunette was asked about it, and he was very frank, as Andrew Brunette is, and was like, it was not great. It was not good. Didn't like it. Not here for it. Not a fan. So, missed opportunity on the power play. Talking about missed opportunities, God bless Colton Sissons, but Sissons did not score this time in the playoffs for real. A chance to hit that empty net goal, which really would have sealed it, made it a 4-1 game, and the puck goes off the post. In his defense, Andrew Brunette did speak up and say, look, that was a tough shot. He had somebody on him. He's on the backhand. You're just trying to get it on net. But man, missed opportunities on the power play, missed opportunities with the empty net there. The other thing, and this is just a small thing, but it's something that I've noticed in this series that is perhaps one of the small factors that could have turned things for Nashville tonight, and that is face-offs. Vancouver has had the face-off edge in 3 of the 4 games in this series, and there were a couple of critical face-off losses that Nashville cost. Vancouver's first goal came off of a face-off play. They needed to win face-offs on the power play because Vancouver, if they got that puck, they were clearing the puck. Late in the game, you wanted to win those face-offs in overtime. So there are some little things there that really need to be improved. And it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough. There was a loss of composure late in the game. And when you don't do things well, if you don't do little things well through a majority of the game, that's going to come back to haunt you. And Nashville, look, they're living in it right now, y'all. We are living in it. What is so interesting, again, about this game is it was probably Nashville's best game of the series. Now, I don't know that I would go out and say, man, did they dominate the Canucks? Because I don't think you're going to have a game that is going to be one team dominated another. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen in game 5 because Nashville has to bounce back from this. But this is a muddy series. You're not going to have big blowout games. Nashville liked much of their game in this game. I mean, they liked what they were doing. Talked with them a little bit about how they saw the game up to, those game tying and overtime goals. This is what a couple of the players had to say about how they saw their game in game 4.
But thought we played a good enough game to win. We like our game. I think for the most part in this series, especially here at home, I thought there's lots to like in our game, and just gotta flush it and keep going.
Well, I think we had a lot of ozone time, and I feel like we limited their chances. They got one in the first off a face-off play, but other than that, I felt like they didn't have too many good looks, and we played even in third. I think we game 1 or even 2, we were up and we kind of sat back, and I felt like tonight we kept pushing and kept pushing for that 4th goal. It didn't happen, but I think that's the way we need to play the third, and obviously clean up some things in the last 5. But I just thought we played aggressive and we played fast.
I thought we were getting on the forecheck. I think. Obviously, even in the third period, everything is great except the last couple of minutes. I thought we were holding on to pucks. We're spending a ton of time down there, and So I think that's something that we've been working hard to get to. And obviously, like I said, all the investments that we've been putting on in the previous 4 games, they're paying off, and hopefully we can keep doing that.
So you heard them talk about, look, there were aspects of this game that we felt really, really good about. We talk about Corsi 4 here, puck possession, which has been a struggle against Vancouver, especially early in this series. Nashville had a 56 to 44% edge in this game when it comes to puck possession. They had, 10 more shots on goal than Vancouver. In a lot of ways, they controlled the pace of the game. they just couldn't close it out. And you know what? When you are winning by 2 goals in a playoff game, when you feel like you have played well for 55 minutes, and then those 5 minutes cost you the game, man, like this is a tough, tough loss to swallow. So where do the Nashville Predators go from here? How do you bounce back from a game like this? And what do you do? We're going to talk about that coming up here in just a minute. We're also going to clean up a couple odds and ends that I feel like we need to talk about. But first, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We got to pause and talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Hey, all right, take a seat in the penalty box. You already talked about it. But friends, there is so much good stuff to talk about in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you work together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there is so much to get. You can unlock unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. There are cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games as well. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. So Nashville Predators, dropped game 4. They've got game 5 coming up tomorrow night. On tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about what has to happen in this game 5 for Nashville to keep this series going. But right now, let's talk about it. We've talked about the game. We've talked about what went wrong for Nashville. We've heard from the players about like, hey, this is what we liked about our game. Where do you go from here? Like, how do you bounce back from a loss like this? You know, there was just a little brief clip there from Gus Nyquist. Gus Nyquist did not like losing that game. Roman Josi, Phil Forsberg, they did not like losing that game, especially that way. And look, if you're a Nashville Predators fan and you watch that game, you did not like losing that game. So turnaround time. You have very little time. The Predators boarding a plane this morning on their way to Vancouver, and they have to be ready to go tomorrow night. So how do you bounce back from a loss like this? I got to ask Andrew Brunette about recovering from a loss like this, and especially about some of the younger players who maybe haven't had that postseason experience, who maybe haven't experienced the agony of defeat in quite that same fashion in a playoff game. This is what Andrew Brunette had to say about the young players and the team as a whole bouncing back.
Well, I think as a young player, you cleared a little faster, and I think it's not that big of a deal. And they probably didn't have too much blood on their hands, near the end of the game. So they should feel pretty good about their games. They had some opportunities, thought they played well. And for the veteran guys, they've been through this. They understand. It hurts, but it's supposed to hurt, and it's going to be hard, but it's supposed to be hard. So I think that's got to be the mentality. It's going to be even harder the next game, and we'll embrace it. And we'll go, like I said, we'll move straight ahead. We'll try to play the best we can. We've been a really good road team all year. We just go win a game, be us, and be the best version of us. And I think if we do that, regardless what happens, we'll be okay. And I think where our game's at, I feel comfortable. I think we're getting better, a little better each game, and give ourselves a chance next game.
For as bad as this loss feels, and let's just be honest, this loss feels like crap. I do think that there is something to be said for kind of putting it into big picture perspective. I do think there was a lot to like about Nashville's game last night. I do think the Predators are improving in this series. I do think that they've done a really good job in this series overall against a Vancouver team that has had excellent goaltending. They've got a Norris Trophy caliber defenseman. They've got was 103 points JT Miller had in the regular season, with some 40 goal scorers as well, and a lot of size and a lot of scoring threat in their depth. So you have to like what Nashville has done. And look, I know it's probably too soon to throw this out, but let's remember Nashville Predators weren't even supposed to be in the playoffs. Again, saying all that, did they have to lose in that fashion last night? No, they did not. Here we are. A lot of mixed feelings on today's show. Do want to hit on a couple of other details from last night just to kind of keep everybody updated. Casey DeSmith was out. Artur Shilovs was in for the Canucks. Young Latvian. Look, I didn't root for him, even though I know, you all know that I love the Latvians. He did play against Nashville. This was his second game against Nashville. He did play against Nashville March 6th in 2023. Also won that game in overtime. I believe he saved like 29 of 31, I think, in that game. Little fun fact, Luke Evangelista got his first NHL goal against Shilovs. Very interesting way that all went down, just to kind of give you a peek behind the curtain on how this information kind of got out, or how we learned of it in the media. Rick Tocchet had a media availability Sunday afternoon at 1:30. Just mentioned, that there may be some lineup changes. Our good friend Alex Doherty just raised his hands, just wanted to get him to confirm that DeSmith was indeed going to be the starter in net. And it was kind of odd because Rick Tocchet just didn't quite answer the question. He kind of danced around confirming it. Well, I don't really want to say too much about specific players. Vancouver media, after he left, even the Vancouver media were like, say what? Because here's what we're kind of seeing, at least this is my perspective in watching Rick Tocchet's pressers, is that he seems to be a very straight shooter like Andrew Brunette. He seems to be very direct and very honest and great at answering questions. So it's kind of surprising. And then a report started circulating online that perhaps there was an injury with DeSmith. That was later confirmed by Frank Saravelli. Rick Tocchet did say after the game last night that they were being extra cautious with DeSmith. The decision was made Saturday afternoon that he wasn't going to start. It does not appear that this is going to be any like long-term series-ending injury for DeSmith. So there's potential that he could start in tomorrow night's game, or if the series is extended, do not be surprised at all if we were to see DeSmith back. So that's kind of the situation with goaltending there. Roman Josi was injured in the game, took a puck to the side of his head in the first period. He got to the bench in pain. He returned back to the ice, just a few minutes later, but was sent off by an official, went down the tunnel, was not there on the bench immediately to start the second period, but returned rather quickly. He did confirm after the game that he did have stitches in his ear after that game. I do want to wrap up this Locked On Predators episode with a brief apology to any Canucks fans who may be listening to this, and also just to share kind of one of those moments with our Locked On Pred heads who know me well. Was tweeting about the game, and at one point Quinn Hughes was kind of sandwiched between two Predators players and kind of gingerly got to the bench and appeared to be in some pain. I mean, it was a pretty tough hit on Quinn Hughes. And I tweeted out, Luke Hughes took a hard hit and seems to be in some pain on the bench. Y'all, look, there are like 850 Hughes brothers in the NHL, first of all, in my defense. Okay. Second of all, I'm a mom. Okay. Like, I'm going to go through several children's names till I get to the right one, because that's just sometimes how it happens. And look, if Mama Hughes was the one who was announcing the Norris Trophy winner, she might not get to Quinn first either. So anyway, apologies to the Canucks fans. I do know my Hughes brothers. I know where they all belong, but just in that moment, I tweeted the wrong name. And for my Locked On Pred heads, man, this mama's got to get it together. Nashville Predators face a do or die Game 5 tomorrow night. On tomorrow's episode, we will preview that game. We will talk about the must-dos for the Nashville Predators. We're also going to talk about Andrew Brunette and playoff coaching. Thank you for making today's Locked On Predators, though, your first listen of the day. We hope that you have a great Monday. We'll see you back here tomorrow.